My name is Avery Collins. I was 27 years old when my mother told me my grandfather had died, believing I had abandoned him. She said it in the church parking lot, less than 10 minutes after the funeral. He asked for you at first, she said, but after what he learned, he stopped. I stared at her. What did he learn? My mother looked past me toward the line of cars leaving the cemetery. You know what you did. But I didn't. For 12 days before Grandpa died, my entire family had treated me like I was guilty of something no one would explain. My calls were ignored. My messages were read but unanswered. My aunt told me it was not the time to defend myself. My cousin said Grandpa had been deeply hurt. My mother said he refused to hear my voice. And now he was gone. I was still standing there, trying to understand how the man who raised me could die angry with me without ever telling me why, when a woman in navy blue scrubs approached from the church steps. I recognized her from the hospital. Her name was Marisol Vega. She had been one of Grandpa's night nurses. "Can I speak to you privately?" she asked. My mother turned when she heard us. Marisol noticed and lowered her voice. "Not here." We walked to the far end of the parking lot. She took a small sealed envelope from her handbag. "Your grandfather asked me to make sure you received this," she said. "He gave it to the hospital social worker 2 nights before he died. Your mother asked whether he had left anything behind." My fingers tightened around the envelope. "What is it?" "I don't know. The social worker logged it as a personal item and released it to me because your grandfather had written your name on it." I looked back toward my mother. She was watching us now. Marisol added, "Whatever your family told you, your grandfather never stopped asking for you." Inside the envelope was a brass key and a blue claim ticket. The number 317 had been written across the top. Hartwell Central Storage. No message. No explanation. Only the key, the ticket, and a date from 14 years earlier. That was the moment my grief became suspicion. Grandpa's name was Arthur Collins. He had raised me from the time I was 10. My biological father disappeared before I was born. My mother, Diane, raised me alone until she married Richard Keller when I was 8. Richard had a daughter named Lauren, 1 year younger than me. 2 years after their wedding, Richard accepted a job in another state. My mother told me I would stay with Grandpa until they got settled. They never came back for me. At first, I waited. Then I stopped. Grandpa packed my lunches, attended every school event, taught me to drive, and gave me a bedroom with yellow curtains because I told him yellow made mornings feel less lonely. When I graduated from college, he stood in the front row holding a cardboard sign that said, "That's my girl." My mother arrived after the ceremony. Richard did not come. That was our family. Grandpa and me in the moments that mattered. Everyone else in the photographs afterward. 3 months before his death, Grandpa was diagnosed with an aggressive blood disorder. I drove him to appointments, organized his medication, and learned how to make the only soup he could still taste. Then my mother returned. Not gradually. Suddenly. She arrived with groceries, flowers, and a folder labeled Family Care Plan. Richard began visiting too. Lauren posted old photographs of Grandpa online, with captions about cherishing every moment. I tried to be grateful. Grandpa deserved more family around him. But everything changed after he fell at home and was admitted to St. Anne's Hospital. On the first night, I sat with him until midnight. He was weak, but mentally clear. He squeezed my hand, and asked me to bring his old blue cardigan because hospitals were designed by people who hated body heat. The next morning, my mother called. "Don't come today." "Why?" "He had a difficult night." "I'll sit quietly." "He asked for space." That didn't sound like Grandpa. I called his room. A nurse told me calls had been restricted by the designated family contact. My mother. When I called Diane again, she said Grandpa was confused and easily upset. Then I should be there. "No, Avery, you're the person upsetting him." The sentence was so absurd that I almost laughed. "What are you talking about?" "He knows." "Knows what?" Silence. Then she said, "Don't make me say it." She hung up. For the next 12 days, everyone spoke to me as though I had committed a betrayal too shameful to name. Aunt Julia said, "Your grandfather gave you everything." My cousin Madison sent a message that read, "I hope the money was worth it." Lauren said only one sentence. "You should have left him something." I called her immediately. She declined. I went to the hospital on the 4th day. Richard met me outside the elevator. He wore a gray suit, and the patient expression he used whenever strangers were watching. "You need to leave." "I'm seeing Grandpa." "He doesn't want you here." "Tell me what you think I did." His eyes moved toward the nurse's station. "This isn't the place." "Then where is the place?" He lowered his voice. "You emptied his account." For a moment, the hallway seemed to narrow. "What?" $28,000. I didn't touch his money. He saw the transfer. "What transfer?" Richard tilted his head. "Keep your voice down." "Show it to me." "The bank is reviewing it." "Then why hasn't anyone contacted me?" "Because your mother is trying to protect you." That almost broke something inside me. My mother is telling people I robbed the man who raised me, and you call that protection? His face hardened. "You always were ungrateful." Security escorted me from the floor 5 minutes later. That evening, my mother told the family that I had become unstable and was attempting to pressure Grandpa into changing his will. The next day, Grandpa's phone was disconnected. The day after that, my key to his house stopped working. Someone had changed the locks. I stopped trying to convince my relatives. I contacted the hospital's patient advocate, then an elder law attorney named Naomi Brooks. Naomi listened quietly. At the end, she asked, "Do you have proof your grandfather did not authorize the transfer?" "No." "Do you have proof your mother or stepfather did?" "No." "Then right now, you have suspicion and family conflict." "I have 19 years of knowing him." "I believe you," she said, "but a court needs documents." 2 days later, Grandpa died. No one called me. I found out because Lauren posted a black and white photograph with the caption, "He left knowing who truly loved him." By the time I reached the hospital, his room was empty. My mother stood in the hallway with Richard. "You missed him," she said. Then she added, "Maybe that's what you wanted." At the funeral, I sat in the back. My name was not mentioned once. Lauren gave the eulogy. She spoke about summers she had barely spent with him and repeated advice he had actually given me. My mother cried against Richard's shoulder. Then Marisol handed me the envelope. I drove directly to Hartwell. The storage facility occupied part of an old railway station, but there was nothing cinematic about it. Fluorescent lights, security cameras, concrete hallways, a board manager behind a glass desk. I showed him the claim ticket. He checked Grandpa's identification record and the renewal history. Arthur Collins paid this every year, he said. Unit 317, third floor. The key worked. Inside were 3 bankers' boxes, a red child's suitcase, and a framed photograph placed face down on a shelf. No money. No jewelry. Nothing that looked valuable. I opened the first box. It contained credit reports, old utility bills, personal loan applications, and copies of identification documents carrying my name. My birth certificate. My social security number. Signatures that looked like mine. Accounts had been opened when I was 13, 15, and 17. One credit card carried my name, with Richard listed as an authorized user. My knees weakened. The missing $28,000 had not been transferred to me. It had been transferred into an account created using my identity. The second box contained letters from Grandpa to my mother. Diane, you promised this would stop. Avery cannot carry debts she did not create. If Richard uses her information again, I will report both of you. One unsent letter contained a line that hurt more than everything else. I protected you for so long that I became part of what you did to her. Grandpa had known. He had paid old balances, helped close accounts, and protected my mother from consequences. Because he protected her, she had learned that there would always be another chance. The third box contained medical and legal documents. Not Grandpa's. Mine. A hospital bracelet read, Baby Girl Mercer. My mother's last name had never been Mercer. I picked up the framed photograph. A young woman stood beside Grandpa, holding a newborn wrapped in yellow. The woman wasn't Diane. Written on the back were 4 words. Alina and Avery, June 12th. Inside the red suitcase were baby clothes, a silver locket, and a sealed letter addressed in Grandpa's handwriting. For Avery, when Diane can no longer control the story. I sat on the floor before opening it. Avery, if you are reading this, I failed to tell you while I was alive. The woman who gave birth to you was named Alina Mercer. She was Diane's younger cousin. Alina was 19 when you were born. She struggled with addiction and placed you temporarily with Diane while she entered treatment. When Alina returned 9 months later, Diane refused to give you back. By then, Diane had begun presenting you as her own daughter. She told Alina that changing everything again would harm you. There was a guardianship dispute. It never became a full trial because Alina relapsed and left the state. For years, I believed she had chosen drugs over you. 14 years ago, I learned that was not the whole truth. Richard had pressured her to leave. He threatened to use her old criminal charge against her and told her that she would never be allowed near you again. Diane knew. I confronted them. They insisted you were better off, and that telling you would only cause pain. I agreed to wait until you were older. Then every year I waited became another lie. Alina has now been sober for 16 years. She has written to you every birthday. Her letters are stored here. I looked behind the boxes. A bundle of 27 envelopes was tied with blue ribbon. One for every birthday. Grandpa's letter continued. The recent bank transfer was intended to make you appear responsible if the truth came out. Diane and Richard know Alina has consulted a lawyer about correcting your family records. They kept you away because I planned to tell you everything. I am sorry I waited. I thought silence protected you. It only protected the people hurting you. At the bottom was a telephone number and address for Alina Mercer, my biological mother. Alive. Living 3 hours away. I sat on the floor of Unit 317 until the manager knocked and asked whether I was all right. For the first time, I understood what the story was actually about. Not the house. Not the money. Not even Grandpa's will. My mother had spent 12 days destroying my credibility because she was afraid I would discover that she and Richard had used my identity for years. And because she was afraid I would learn she was not my biological mother. I called Naomi from the parking lot and sent her photographs of everything. She told me not to confront anyone and arranged for copies of the records to be delivered to an investigator. Then I called Alina. A woman answered on the 4th ring. Hello. I couldn't speak. She repeated it. Hello. Is this Alina Mercer? Silence. Yes. My name is Avery Collins. A broken breath came through the phone. Then she whispered, I know. I closed my eyes. Why didn't you contact me? Her answer came slowly. I tried when you were 14. Richard sent me a photograph of you outside your school. He wanted me to understand that he knew where you were and could make trouble if I came back. The same year, Grandpa rented Unit 317. That was why he kept the records away from the house. Alina and I agreed to meet the next afternoon, Naomi's office. Before that happened, my mother called repeatedly. I did not answer. Then Lauren called. Avery, where are you? Why? Mom knows you went to Hartwell. How? She found the storage ticket missing from Grandpa's things. What does she think I found? Lauren was quiet. Then she said, enough to ruin them. That evening, someone attempted to force the lock on Unit 317. The facility's cameras recorded Richard entering with an old claim ticket and a screwdriver. The manager called police. Richard was stopped before he entered the unit. He claimed he was recovering family property. The unit was legally in Grandpa's name, and the executor had not authorized him to enter. Police searched his car after finding identification documents that did not match his name. Among them were copies of my records. The next morning, my mother was waiting in Naomi's lobby. Her eyes were swollen. For 1 second, she looked like the mother I had spent my entire life trying to find. Avery, please. I stopped several feet away. Is Alina my biological mother? She began crying. That was the answer. Why? I couldn't have children. I stared at her. Alina was unstable. She wasn't ready. She came back for me. She would have destroyed your life. You changed the story of my birth. We gave you a real home. You left me with Grandpa when I was 10. Her face tightened. That isn't fair. No, none of this is fair. I loved you. You loved being my mother. That isn't the same as loving me. She covered her mouth. You used my identity to open accounts. That was Richard. You signed one of the applications. Her eyes dropped. You told Grandpa I stole from him. We needed time. For what? To fix everything before he made accusations. You kept me from him until he died. He was going to destroy us. No, he was going to tell the truth. She stood. I am still your mother. The office door opened behind her. A woman entered, holding a blue folder. She was thin, with silver beginning in her dark hair. Around her neck was a locket identical to the one from the suitcase. "Elena." She stopped when she saw me. My mother turned. For the first time in my life, Diane stood in front of someone she could not rewrite. Elena did not look at her. She looked at me. "I'm sorry," she said. Not, "I'm your mother." Not, "Come hug me." Only the sentence she had earned the right to say. "I read the letters," I answered. Her face broke. Diane stepped between us. "This is exactly what I was afraid of." I looked at her. "No, this is what you were afraid I would survive." Naomi asked Diane to leave. She refused until building security arrived. Elena and I spoke for 3 hours. She did not ask me to forgive her. She told me the ugly parts. The addiction. The arrest. The relapse. The fear. The pressure from Richard. The years she spent rebuilding her life. She showed me copies of returned letters, legal consultations, and photographs Grandpa had secretly sent her. My kindergarten graduation. My first bicycle. My college acceptance letter. Grandpa had kept her outside my life, but he had also kept her connected to it. That contradiction hurt. Grandpa had been the safest person I knew. He had also made a decision that allowed the lie to survive. Loving him meant accepting both truths. The investigation into the money took months. Richard had created the account carrying my name 6 months before Grandpa's illness worsened. Diane used access to Grandpa's paperwork to help redirect funds. Their plan was not sophisticated. It relied on something simpler. Family members believing them before asking questions. They intended to make me look responsible, isolate Grandpa, gain control of his property, and then argue that I had exploited him. What they did not know was that Grandpa had already placed the house into a protected estate plan, prepared by an independent lawyer. No one could transfer it without review. He had created a backup plan. He just did not survive long enough to explain it. 2 weeks later, Lauren contacted me. We met at a coffee shop. She looked exhausted. "I knew Mom was hiding something," she said. "I didn't know all of it." "You knew about the storage unit." "I heard them arguing. Richard said Grandpa had hidden proof." "Why did you help them search?" She stared into her coffee. "Because they told me the evidence would send Mom to prison." "It might." She nodded. "I know." Then she pushed a memory card across the table. "Richard recorded family conversations," she said. "He liked having leverage." The card contained a video filmed in Grandpa's kitchen 2 days before his hospital admission. Richard stood near the table. Diane sat beside him. Grandpa faced them. He looked tired, but clear-minded. Richard said, "If Avery learns the truth, she'll turn against all of us." Grandpa answered, "There shouldn't be an us after what you did." Diane began crying. "You'll lose her too." Grandpa looked toward the camera without knowing it was there. "No," he said. "I lost her the day I chose your secret over her right to know." The video ended. That sentence stayed with me. He understood what his silence had done. Not completely, but enough. Several months later, Diane accepted responsibility for her role in the identity fraud and unauthorized transfers as part of a legal agreement. Richard faced additional charges connected to forged records and his attempt to enter the storage unit. Lauren moved out of their house. Some relatives told me to forgive Diane because she had raised me. Others said Elena had lost the right to be part of my life because she had left. I stopped accepting opinions from people who had never asked me what I needed. Elena and I did not become mother and daughter overnight. We started with coffee, then phone calls, then one Sunday dinner at Grandpa's house. She sat at the kitchen table and quietly asked whether I still hated peas. I stared at her. "How would you know that?" She smiled through tears. "Your grandfather wrote that you hid them in your napkin until you were 12. I laughed. It was the first easy sound between us. I kept Grandpa's house. Not because it was valuable. Because every room held evidence that love can be real even when people fail each other. I changed the locks. I returned the red suitcase to the bedroom with yellow curtains. I framed the first birthday letter Alina had written me. And I placed the brass key to Unit 317 inside a small glass box on Grandpa's desk. Under it, I wrote one sentence. The truth did not arrive in time to save everything, but it arrived in time to save me. My family said Grandpa died angry with me. He didn't. He died afraid I would never know how badly he had failed me, and how hard he had tried at the end to make it right. I used to think the cruelest thing my mother did was keeping me from his deathbed. It was. The cruelest thing was making both of us believe the other had chosen to stay away. That is how manipulation works. It does not always lock a door. Sometimes it convinces two people that neither of them wants it opened. Now I want to hear from you. Would you have opened Unit 317 alone, or contacted a lawyer first? Could you ever forgive Diane after learning why she kept Avery from her grandfather? And do you believe Grandpa protected Avery, or did his silence make the betrayal worse? Share your answer in the comments. I read every one, and your perspective may help someone else who has lived through a similar family betrayal. If this story kept you watching, please like the video and subscribe to Real Stories of Women. Here, we share emotional stories about family secrets, betrayal, survival, and the strength it takes to face the truth. Turn on notifications so you do not miss the next story. Thank you for listening.